Welcome to the Creative Chats podcast with Mike Brennan. Hey friends, welcome to another episode of Creative Chats. It's the podcast for artists, makers, and content creators where we talk about creativity, the creative process, and story. I'm your host, Mike Brennan. You can connect with me over my website, which is mikebrennan.me, and I would love for you to check out all the resources I've created with you in mind, because I love helping fellow creative people. And by the way, I believe everyone is creative. It's just a matter of identifying what that looks like for you and then doing it with intention and purpose. And so I've created resources like the Daily Creative Habit 90-Day Journal, which is a self-guided journal to help you check in every single day and do something. Show up, set intention, take action, track and measure. Make sure you're actually doing the things that you said that you want to do, because time management is so difficult for many of us. So it's a tool to help. And also I have the Daily Creative Habit membership, which is a paid group. It's monthly. And there's a private Facebook group that meets also on Zoom once a month. And today's guest is actually a member of the Daily Creative Habit membership, Jennifer Stavinoha. And she is just a ray of light. You're going to just easily just fall in love with her work, her story, just her as she shows up. She's a delightful person, and we're so fortunate to have her as part of our community. So we talk a little bit about that today. We talk about why she creates and a little bit of her journey and story, and an amazing project that she's been a part of for a while, which is this school bus that she bought, and her vision behind that and what she wants to do to help use that to bring creativity to other people. And so if you are someone who has been wondering, what should my creativity look like? And maybe you're on the front end of the journey and you're just trying to make sense of the pieces, or you've been in it for a little while and you have multiple expressions and you're looking to monetize and you have a ton of questions. I think no matter where you are in your creative journey, certainly Jennifer's story and experiences will speak to you. And also let our conversation around the Daily Creative Habit membership be an encouragement to you, that if you'd like to be a part of this community, you have opportunity to do so. You can go to dailycreativehabit.com, and there's a link there to sign up for the membership. And we would love to have you as a part of this membership. It is not simply just us going through a process. We do talk a lot about the Daily Creative Habit process in there, but it's more than that. It's life on life. And you'll hear that from our conversation today. It's being with like-minded and fellow creatives, people who understand you, who get you. It's having a sense of belonging so you can come with life, because sometimes our creativity is mired in sad days and mental health struggles. And sometimes it's us being overjoyed with opportunities that we didn't see coming, and a place to celebrate with people, and sometimes a place to ask questions and get some information. It's all those things. And so if you'd like to be a part of this group, I would love to have you there. And it is a small group. It's not for everyone, but maybe it's for you. And certainly if you're not sure if you're ready for that, I would love for you to join the free Facebook group for Daily Creative Habit. That is a place where you could come and kind of check things out and be a part of a larger community there, and post some work in progress, ask some questions, get some encouragement. But if you want the inner circle, come and join the Daily Creative Habit membership. Again, you can find that at dailycreativehabit.com. And I would love for you to be a part of that community. So without further ado, here is my creative chat with Jennifer Stavinoha. Well, Jennifer, welcome to the Creative Chats podcast. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes. So we go way back. Well, maybe not like way, way back, but at least back enough, right? I mean,
Yes.
I was trying to think about this the other day because, you're one of those people who you're interwoven into the Daily Creative Habit community and the membership. And also you've been part of the Thing community, which we've talked about on this podcast. And just so there's been that. And then I think there was the other Christian artist community that was before that. And I think that's how we initially got some contact, was through
Yes.
that.
Yes.
So it's always Yeah, it's fun to kind of trace the lines and go like, yeah, I know we're kind of always around each other, but how did that actually start? So it was good times. So I love that you're here today. I love that you're ready to talk about your art and about your creativity and about just some things in just your journey and how that's all gone about. So you are a multifaceted artist as well, a multi-creative. I love that. I love talking with fellow creatives who don't just settle and go like, this is one thing that I have and that's it. And this is all it looks like. And that's fine. Some people that is their thing and that's cool. And there's just nothing, no shade thrown against that. But I also love talking with people who have those multiple interests and expressions, because it's like there's so many different opportunities and possibilities that it really is exciting. And so I would love to know for you, like, what was your earliest form of creativity? And like, do you have a memory or experience around that you could share with us?
Ever since I was little, I always remember drawing and stuff, and I remember getting in trouble in school because I was doodling, on my papers instead of paying attention in class. So, yeah, and that goes back to grade school.
Yeah. Yeah. And did that doodling then develop into like you having a stronger interest in like more, art classes and projects and things that were, given to you in a more than just doodling on pages that you weren't necessarily supposed to doodle?
Well, I guess you could say that I have a lot of different interests. In school, I played a lot of sports. I also was involved with one act play, the art club, and stuff like that. And so I was in band. So I did a little bit of everything and I enjoyed it all. That led me going into college and not really knowing what I wanted to do. I started off in business and was like, no, and ended up going into graphic design. And my graphic design professor was like, this isn't for you. So I was like, okay. So I started taking a lot of studio classes. And then eventually they opened up a specialization for photography. And I was like, you know what? Let me dabble in this. So I ended up with a Bachelor of Fine Arts in studio art photography. So it
Nice.
just kind of
Yeah.
a little bit of everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and sometimes people think I need to get to that thing as quickly as possible, like whatever my thing is going to be. And they shortchange themselves in the process where they don't try different things, because sometimes you just don't know if something resonates with you unless you give it a try. And even if like you're not necessarily great at it out of the gate, doesn't necessarily mean that you can't develop that skill or get a deeper interest or have that become part of your expression more so. I think sometimes it's easy to get frustrated when we don't see immediate results and think, well, then forget it. This isn't for me, or I'll never be good at this, or whatever the voices inside our heads usually tell
Yeah.
us, right? Were there any like specific projects that you remember being like moments for you where you really felt like really proud of it, or it was something that was a mile marker for you? You know what I mean?
I guess it's more like the shocking things. I remember being in class and it was a drawing class and I'm sitting here with the charcoal and everything and all of a sudden my professor comes by and was like, "What are you doing?" Like really loud in front of everybody and I'm sitting here going, "Oh my god, he's calling me out." And I'm just like, he's like, "You're drawing too dark. You're not supposed to start off that dark. When you're first drawing, you're supposed," and I'm just sitting here going, okay, I'm really messing up in this. And it was those moments that made me think, okay, how can I change this? How can I do better? How can I, and so it's been one thing leading into the next, and not only that, but just even another moment, like when I was out taking photographs the past couple of years, I realized that my photography is connected with my art because it helped me see how lighting is in the photography stuff, whereas I can put it into my paintings. And so those are the things like even though they're somewhat negative, they still help me understand in different aspects of that art creativity.
Yeah. Yeah. You make a good point because I think about that too in terms of so graphic design being one thing for me, and then even photography. Like my photography is more of my hobby, is that's the stuff that's just for me that I just enjoy doing, and I don't geek out about the technical stuff. I like to just get in there and play and explore, and people may say like, well, what were your settings? And I'm like, I don't know. I just, I know that I got the result that I wanted, or I had a happy accident result and that was pleasing. But the whole thing of being able to even look through a lens to make a composition and then taking that learning to either my drawing or painting or even design, knowing how cropping on a photo will fit into a design that I'm doing, or maybe it won't. And so how those things kind of cross pollinate and inform each other, you make a great point that there's pieces of that, even though the original context in which we may have learned something may have been one form of expression, we can certainly carry it over to other areas, and that can help us even give us a shortcut a lot of times to being able to have a process that works, and introduces those elements, right?
Yeah.
So tell me about like how did things continue to progress for you as you graduated, and then I know you were a teacher for a while, and so how did some of those decisions come into play? Were there moments where you were um, more strategic and intentional about choices, or were they things that just kind of happened and you were responding to them, like mix of both?
Well, it was, I would say more of, I would say it was more of, this is where the wave's going and it's carrying me this way. I was actually thinking about moving up to New York City and getting into textile design after college. And I ended up with a teaching position. And so I started off with that, and I realized that I really enjoyed helping people. And it wasn't necessarily art, because I also taught art and music my first year. And I really enjoyed being around people and helping them and allowing them to have that freedom to create. And so I ended up going back to school and getting my certification in art from kindergarten all the way up through 12th grade. And I taught in various school districts across Texas. I even coached golf for about 3 years in one school district. So it's been very enjoyable, very fulfilling. And it got to a point, I'd say I started teaching in 2001. I ended teaching in 2018. And that decision was because my parents had passed away. And I got to a point where I couldn't be in the classroom. Like I couldn't give myself to help them 100% and be there for them 100% because I wasn't there 100%. And I decided to leave and pursue my creativity full time. So that was one of, I guess, the pivotal moments in my life where I was like, you know what? I can't do this anymore. What am I going to do? And I've always wanted to be an artist. I always wanted to share my creativity. And so it was in that moment that I was like, okay, I need to go this direction. And, I keep telling these kids, go after your dreams, go after stuff that makes you happy. I had lost my happiness when my parents passed, and I was like, I'm going to go ahead and pursue this and go after this. And that's what I've been doing ever since 2018. It's still been a rocky road because I ended up in the process losing everything. And so I'm starting to rebuild myself and rebuild who I am in that process.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've gotten to see some of that unfold as we've been around each other in proximity the past several years. And just, I just want to say I'm proud of you. I know it's not easy, and certainly when your creativity has to turn to your own life, and you're like, I need to recreate what my life looks like. It's a difficult thing, but it's an important work. And it's a work that touches everything else that you'll create and do in life. So I say that to cheer you on.
I appreciate it. You have been a cheerleader.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Um, so can you tell us a little bit about like what does your art look like? You know, you've touched on, I know you do photography and painting and like and writing, and so tell us a little bit more specific, like what does that look like for you?
I guess it's just sharing my journey. My artwork spans from nature stuff to my beliefs to even some of the Greek mythology that I like. I mean, it's just my art is a part of me. And it's not just my artwork, it's also my books, my photography. I mean, it's just I have my aunt, she's constantly saying, "I love your photography. It's a different perspective on things." And I never really noticed that, and so it kind of makes me think, well, is my artwork a little different? Can you see things differently with this? But it's just artwork's very personal. It's who you are out in the open for everyone to criticize. That's just how it is.
Yeah. Do you think that you like? I want to ask a question about motivation in your creating. Is it more of a sense of like I need to make meaning and find purpose in some of my experiences, and therefore that's what's driving me to create, or is it you're creating something because you're looking to connect with somebody else over it, or is it a combination of things? Like what is it that drives you to create?
I think it's more of me having something inside that I need to get out and put out there and, let people see. And it's, you know, creating artwork is very vulnerable because, I mean, like I said before, it's a part of who you are. And so, when I put stuff out there, it means something to me. It may not mean the same thing to someone else, that may have a different meaning. It may trigger a memory or something like that with them. But to me, it's a part of me that I just feel like I need to get out somehow. So through my photography, through my artwork, my books.
Yeah. Yeah. And that sense of this is what I've experienced. This is how I see the world. This is what's important to me. Creating something around that, putting it out there. That is a vulnerable thing. You're right. Because if someone were to say, well, I don't like that, or, what did you do that for? It almost seems like it's an attack on you and on how you see things and what your experiences may have been. It's a hard thing to come to the place where you create and realize not everybody's going to receive what I do and then be okay with that. And that's actually a good thing because then you can find the right people, your people, and gather around them and create things that speak to them because they understand that something that you've created resonates with them and there's a shared common bond. And that's a beautiful thing when that happens, and you start to develop more and more of that. And I think that's part of the artist journey and the creative journey too, is not just creating the work, but then also finding your audience, finding your people, and then continuing to pour into that as you do your work. One of the other things that I think is really an interesting thing for your story is I want to talk about the bus, the giant school bus. So can you tell us like tell people what I'm talking about, but then also give a context of like, where did this come from? Why are you doing this? Like, give us some details around this.
So I ended up, like I said, losing everything and having to start over. And I ended up in a place where I didn't have a home anymore. And so a friend of mine decided to sell me her school bus that she had started to convert. And I had asked her several years before because I was looking into it about having it for part time use, maybe pulling my Jeep somewhere to go camping off-roading, stuff like that. And when I lost everything, I was like, I need a home. I like to travel. And so she sold me the bus, and I lived on it for about a year until I got to a place where I could take everything out and start working on it. And that in itself has been a journey, because it's like you start working on it and then depression hits, and it's like you realized everything that you've lost, and then it takes you a while to start working on it again, and it's been a process. And I plan on having this bus as my home and my art studio, and I want to travel the country and enjoy nature, because nature is something that also just brings me back to life and rejuvenates me. So, this will allow me to go to places that I enjoy being in, and stuff like that.
Yeah. It's such an interesting story, and I don't know that I've known anyone who has owned a bus before. And maybe it's just because of where I grew up and my surroundings or whatever. I don't know, but and I love that this vision just came to you to be able to do this, and you're like, yeah, this is what I want to do. Like, you didn't need permission for this. You didn't need anything other than what you already have. And in terms of, this is what I see in my head, and now I'm working on this bus, trying to get it up to the place where this vision can actually become a realized thing. And you've been documenting this along the way. I know we've talked about this a little bit, and so you have a place on your website where people can go and read more about this and interact with you on what's been happening, what's currently happening. And correct me if I'm wrong, you have like a GoFundMe or some kind of also.
There, there is an
Yeah.
Amazon wish list, and
Okay,
also
Amazon wish. Yeah.
a donate button, so that,
Yes.
I mean, it costs money to do this stuff, and when you're rebuilding from the ground up, I do what I can, you know, when money comes in from selling artwork and stuff. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and my hope is that maybe somebody listening right now is getting a sense of your vision for this and your passion for this, realizing that, you have a need here, and maybe they can help you with that need, and to know that they're contributing to not just a bus, but your story and your vision and you as a creative person. Because I think when we have those opportunities to be a part of somebody else's story and to help, and to we have a resource that we can lend to somebody else, then the ripple effect is greater, because we're not hoarding things. We're not simply just all about us and what we're doing, but we're generous and free and a part of a thriving, greater creative community. And so I would encourage anybody listening, make sure, I'll have some links in the show notes. Make sure that you go and just see what Jennifer's been doing on this front, see what some of the needs are practically. And if you feel so led, participate in this, donate or grab something off the Amazon wish list, or just whatever way you can encourage Jennifer in her vision for this. Because I think it's a bold thing. I just love that you have this vision and you're sticking to it, and you're like, yeah, this is going to happen. I may not know exactly when, I may not know exactly how, but this is going to happen. I think that's honestly how most of us live in a lot of things creatively. We have the vision, we may have some lack or need, but we keep taking the right next steps, right?
yes.
Yeah.
And you've seen the hood of the bus. I mean, there's a
Mm-hmm.
quote on there, there's artwork on there, and I plan on doing that throughout the whole side of the buses, for each side of the bus, so that people can take pictures. And I want quotes on there to, maybe inspire people to go after their dreams, or maybe inspire their creativity, or help trigger a memory that makes them happy, or something like that. So there will be artwork along with quotes, and I plan on having wings on the side of the bus so that people can come up and take pictures, how you see on murals and stuff. So, it's not only my bus, it's something that I plan on showing with the world, so that, they can be inspired, or maybe have that as a memory that they'll never forget.
Yeah, it's true, because then it becomes like an icon, and it's a symbol of hope, it's a symbol of dreaming, it's a symbol of what's possible. And I love that it transcends beyond what your specific story and experiences and then becomes something for somebody else. I can see this in my head already, like it rolling into town or like coming around the corner and people being like, what is that? And then coming and approaching and then realizing like, oh, this is really cool. And like you said, wanting to take pictures with it and just interact and learn more and let it inspire them to go and create things too. And the fact that it's not something that's like a fixed thing. Like if you only live in, Texas, you only live in whatever, then you can go see it. But it will be rolling into where people are at. And I
Right.
love that. And so, yeah, any way that we can come around you and support you in this vision, this dream of yours, because I think it will be able to be something that touches and changes other people's lives too, as well as your own. So I love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. I would love to talk a little bit about Daily Creative Habit and your involvement. You've been a part of the community for a while and always someone who is encouraging and is giving. You share your ideas, your work in progress. First, it was the Facebook group that is the general Facebook group. That's the free group, basically, where everybody comes and kind of asks questions and can participate. And so I always encourage people to start there. Be a part of a community, to ask questions, to be around some like-minded fellow creative people. And then from there, when I started the Daily Creative Habit membership, which is the monthly membership that happens, and again, that's private. You were like, yes, I want in, and I want to go to the inner circle and be a part of a community that where I can be known and people can know, I can know others and participate on a deeper level. So it's been several months since we've been doing this and we have our weekly calls. I'd love to just hear from you. What has this done for you? What benefit has there been in being a part of this community?
It has really helped me not to give up. Losing everything, coming back, and it's like you take 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, and you're like, am I doing the right thing? Am I on the right path? And, during our monthly meetings on the Zoom call, it's like I get the support that I need. And it's like I help get that vision clearer during those talks, hearing from everybody. And then everybody's just very loving and supportive. And it's a group of understanding each other and understanding that, we may be on different paths, but we do have a similar journey. And together we can get there. We can help each other out along the way, and that's how it's helped me. I mean, I've been emotional ever since my parents passed, and some days are good, some days are bad, and it's just some days depression hits, and some days I'm like, let's go, and I've got all this energy, and I may be an annoying at times, but it's like I have people now that understand me and are like, it's okay to be this way. It's okay. This is who you are. That's been one of the things of accepting that part of me, and that has helped through that group.
Yeah. Yeah. The thing that I've loved to see too, which is something I strive for, but you can't necessarily make happen. It just has to happen on its own by getting the right people together in the room, so to speak. And it's when, even though I'm the guy who put it together and I'm the guy, quote, leading it, I'm not the one who's always there with the encouraging word or the advice for something or checking in, or I do those things, of course, but it's not squarely just on me. Other members have taken upon themselves to go, I'm going to check in, I'm going to see how Jennifer's doing today, or someone else will say, hey, I remember there's this project going on or this special event thing, how'd that go, what's happening? And so there's a real sense of community, not just the buzzword of community, because I know these days it's so easy to throw that word around, but to actually experience that on a level where, like you said, it's people getting together that you feel like you can be yourself and have a sense of validation in that because other people are showing up with themselves too. And I love that every time we have our live Zoom call, our monthly Zoom call, I get to sit with you guys, see your faces, hear what's going on, and get to talk through some things. And it's not all about just sharing the daily creative habit process that I do share in the group and encourage people to walk through of, starting small and scheduling it and celebrating wins and then also play. But it's the stuff in between that. It's the life on life, and it's the things that maybe aren't even necessarily put in the category of quote creative. We as creative people, it's important to us. And so I love to be able to connect with you guys and just see what's happening and lend whatever I've experienced for you guys to be able to, maybe unlock some things or be a help in some way.
Well, you've done that about a month ago where I was having a hard time and I reached out and I was like, "Hey," and you were like, "It's fine. This is part of who you are." And even like last night I had another member message me, "Hey, how you doing?" And and it's a group of people that just care. We understand that journey. I don't want to say a different level, but it is a different level because we as creatives put everything of ourselves out there and makes us very vulnerable. And therefore, sometimes that even drains us. And so, last night one of the members was like, "Hey, how you doing?" And we just chatted, and it wasn't necessarily about art. It was just, "Are you okay? How's it going?"
Yeah.
So
Love that. That is so awesome. And because that's organic. That's the stuff that, it's not part of a program. It's not part of a method or, again, a process necessarily, but it's just, hey, it's life on life. And when you make those connections, those are important. And we need to hang on to those because, I mean, it's not easy being a creative person because we have typically a sensitivity that's deeper and greater than a lot of other folks who aren't necessarily in creative activities or wired that way. And so we need that support even more so. And so to be around like-minded people and people who like get us, I think it's key because if we struggle on that front, we'll never end up showing up to actually do the work
right.
because we'll be so plagued by doubts. We'll be so plagued by just the internal things that so often happen with us, and we're very free in sharing about our mental health struggles and about just the not so glamorous part of
Yeah.
creativity sometimes, right, of wrestling through our ideas to make sure that we can actually make them a reality. And so it's something important for us but also for other people. And yeah, if we're not feeling great about ourselves to begin with or something is blocking us, we're never going to sit down to actually create anything. And so it's so much more than just, again, here's, 4 steps that you apply and just go and do it and rinse and repeat forever and ever. It's organic. And I love seeing what you guys create. I love seeing the updates. I'm hearing you guys that you've applied for shows or that you've, even if you've done something smaller on a personal context of like, what, I got together with some family and I did this particular project and that was my creativity for this past week or a couple of weeks. Because it doesn't always need to be something big and grand.
Right.
It's engaging with that part of ourselves, knowing ourselves and showing up as that creative person we truly are. So
Well, the
yeah.
people in the group, they're so diverse in what we do in our creativity. So it's like, even though I'm dealing with artwork, photography, books, there's other people doing theater and other people doing music and, stuff like that. It's a creative group. And, you know, it's great getting together and realizing that we're on the same journey. We're on the same path, dealing with a lot of similar things, even though our creativity is different.
Yeah, for sure. And some people are doing it more in terms of personal enjoyment and hobby, and other people are wanting to pursue this or are pursuing this for monetary gain and for their career. And I think one of the things that I always talk about is just this place of creativity being whatever happens with it, it all starts at the same place. It all starts with us having this idea or embracing that thing, like you said before, I have something inside of me that needs to come out. It's kind of like the alien, right? Like it needs to be born, it needs to come out. But it's understanding that process. It's understanding ourselves in the context of that. And then what we do with it, it depends on what we desire to do with it, right? Some people don't ever want to monetize their creativity, and that's fine. If they
Yeah.
want to just keep it for themselves and say, hey, this is something that is more of an enjoyment, and if I put monetary expectations on this, then I might kill it. And I've certainly experienced some of that sometimes in some of the things I do, because all of a sudden there's a pressure there. All of a sudden there's something that goes, when I make this, people have to like it. They have to buy it because I'm depending on this for my livelihood.
Right.
And so it can get very, very stressful. And so people are like, no, I don't even want to deal with that. I just want this to know that it's a form of self-care. When I have that urge, or when I feel like I need to engage with that part of myself in that way, I know that that is a part of me that I can sit with, and I can make something, and I can feel better about myself, or I can see something in my mind realized. And that's it. That's all I need it to be.
Yeah.
And then the other side of it, when you are monetizing and you're trying to figure out, how do I market this? How do I find those people that we were talking about before? How do I deal with social media? How do I deal with website stuff? How do I deal with, all the marketing and the promotion and the getting word out about what it is that you do? Because today's day and age, it's not enough just to be the creator and maker of the thing, but you also have to wear many hats.
Yes.
And sometimes you never had an inkling of what that hat would be. You've never had experience. No one taught you this. It's kind of like we're learning as we go. And so to get the group benefit also of, hey, have you tried this? Hey, here's something that worked for me, or here's an idea. That's tremendously valuable too. So I love when I see those things happen too on our calls, where people are interacting and giving advice and suggestions on things and sharing their experiences freely for the benefit of everybody.
Yeah.
So yeah. I love that you're in there. I love that you're part of the group. I love that you're in the community. And I always know that when you show up, people are going to be encouraged. People are going to have some kind of heartfelt interaction with you, because that's just who you are. And I know you're authentic. You show up as you are. And sometimes, yeah, sometimes there's struggle, and sometimes there's tears, but then other times there's excitement, and there's like, you won't believe what happened. This is awesome, and everything in between. And I think that's real life, right? I mean, that's what happens. Yeah. Yeah.
Most people
What
want to
would
paint
you,
this pretty picture of, oh, it's just this way. And I'm like, I bring it all. You get all of me. It's
yeah,
like the crying, the happiness, the sadness, the joy, all of it. So
yeah, yeah. What would you say to somebody who is maybe thinking to themselves, I really want to create, maybe I want to get back to my creativity. I've been away for a while, but I don't know what to do. I don't know how to engage with this. I don't know what this should look like. What advice would you give to somebody like that?
just start, just play. A lot of my creativity, I'm like, oh, let me try this. Let me try this. And one of the things that was always hard for me to do or to understand, I don't think that I have a style. I can sit here and look at some of my photography friends and I'm like, I know it's their work. I can sit here and look at some of my artist friends and I'm like, I know it's their work. But I sit here and I look at mine and it's so different across the board. And it's like that used to bring me down. And I'm like, what am I doing wrong? And it's like, I'm not. I'm not. I'm experimenting. I'm creating. I'm playing. And it's like the more stuff you try, the more you realize that you have more creativity inside that needs to come out. So it's like, you may try something and you may end up leading into this direction, and it's like you just got to get out there, you just got to start. And a lot of times looking at a blank canvas, it's hard because it's like you see this picture in your head and it's like you want it to be a certain way, and it's like just lay the paint down. If it doesn't work out, you can always paint over it, you can always fix it. There's no messing up with that. And it's like just start, let it
Yeah.
come out.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great advice. And I think when we boil things down to small, and I talk about this all the time, this, it's less intimidating. It's more accessible. And if we can focus on that right next step, it gets us moving. And a lot of times that's what really needs to happen, is that we just need to get moving,
Yeah.
because once we're moving, momentum can kick in and clarity comes through action. It doesn't come before action. Because many times we're waiting for, when I have clarity, when I know the direction, when I understand what I want to do, when I have a clear vision, then I'll get to work and do some things. And so often we find ourselves waiting and sitting and nothing happens because we're not doing anything. We're not showing up and taking action. And so taking that action, even if it's a small action, is so much better than doing absolutely nothing or waiting for permission, waiting for somebody else to kick something off. It's us. We're the ones who need to be engaged and to show up for ourselves first, and then engage with the process. And we'll be amazed at what happens as we continue to do that on a regular basis, right?
Right. Well, and one of the things, a lot of people say, oh, I'm in a creative drought. And when you're in that flow, you have so many ideas coming. And one of the things that I have done in the past, and I still do, is I have a notebook. And if I can't get to that project right then and there, I'll write it down. Maybe draw out or doodle some ideas about it. And then when I have time and when I don't feel like creating, I'll go back through and I'll flip through and I'm like, you know what? Let me take this one. And then I'm like, okay, let's go with that. And then all of a sudden it starts coming again. It's like I have that journal, that book to go back to reference to. I'm like, yeah, that was a good idea. And then there's times that you sit here and go, what was I thinking?
Or if you're like me, what did I write? I can't understand my own handwriting.
Right. So
Yeah. I think the point is to have things that work for you. And if you're not sure if it works for you, try it. And if it works, keep it around. If it doesn't, try something else until you find something that does work for you. And then make that part of your regular process, because that's when you set yourself up for success, instead of trying to just force something or replicate something that somebody else did, or become frustrated with the whole thing and want to walk away because you feel like things aren't happening the way they quote should happen, or the way that I envision them to happen. It's a dance so often, and it's learning how to do that daily and figuring out what needs to stick around and what needs to go, and what maybe is a pass through, right? What was a bridge to something else. And that's where the value was. Yeah. Love this. Love that you're a part of our community. Love what you're doing, Jennifer. I mean, again, I can't root you on and cheer you on enough. And I'm excited that other people now are going to know more about you and be able to follow your journey and even potentially come alongside you with the bus project. And it's my privilege to present you, if you will, to even more people in the world. So along those lines, if people want to go and find you, lay some links on us. Like, what's your website? Where can people find you?
The best place to go would be my website, and that's at www.jstavinoha.com. And in there, I have links to my Facebook page, Instagram. I think I need to put my TikTok on there, and eventually I'll have a YouTube channel. So all of the links will be on that website. And if anybody needs to get a hold of me for any reason, you can just email me, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible.
Perfect. Yes. And like I said, we'll put that in the show notes, make it real easy for people to follow along and check out what you're doing and to come alongside and support you. Jennifer, thank you so much for today. Thank you. And I know this was your first podcast ever. We're a little peek behind the curtain, but yes, I love that as well. I feel honored that you came on my show for the first one. I'm honored that you're a part of our community and that you give and you do all the things and you show up again and again and again. Good days, bad days, every day in between. Keep going. And I so appreciate you.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for listening today. I'd appreciate it if you would subscribe, leave a rating and a review. It really helps this podcast be seen and heard by others.